Why did Barron Trump break his silence? What made Barron Trump, once the quietest member of the family, suddenly speak out? After years of staying out of the spotlight, the world was stunned when he made a bold move, sharing his thoughts with the public. What happened to prompt such a change? Was it a natural shift for him? Or is this just the beginning of something bigger? The question everyone is asking: what's next for the youngest Trump? The silent Trump, a family mystery Barron. Trump has always stood out, but not in the way his famous family members have. While his brothers were always front and center, confident and charming, Barron chose a different path. From the beginning, his life was marked by silence and a distinct lack of public attention. Growing up in one of the most famous families in the world, Barron's decision to stay out of the limelight was unusual. While his father, Donald Trump, and siblings Ivanka, Donald Jr., and Eric thrived in the public eye, Barron remained a mystery. Why did Barron choose to avoid the spotlight when the rest of his family seemed to embrace it? Even though Barron lived in the luxurious Trump Tower and later the White House, he didn't join the rest of the family in the public sphere. While his siblings were on television, attending political events, or featured in magazines, Barron kept a low profile. It wasn't that he was uninterested in being seen, it seemed more like a conscious choice. His brothers garnered attention for their involvement in politics and the family business, but Barron remained silent and in the background. People couldn't help but wonder, why was Barron different? Why didn't he join the family on stage? Like his brothers, when he did appear in public, he was often seen standing far away, his face difficult to read. His silence only made people more curious, and speculation about his personality and role in the family began to spread. Was he simply a quiet child? Or had his parents intentionally kept him away from the chaos of fame? Some believe Barron's mother, Melania Trump, played a major role in keeping him out of the spotlight. Melania was known for being protective of Barron's privacy, even during her time as First Lady. While her husband's family was fully immersed in the political spotlight, Melania worked hard to ensure Barron lived as normal a life as possible. She was determined to keep him away from the political scene, allowing him to grow up out of the public eye. Barron was often seen as different from his siblings, who were thrust into the family business and public attention from a young age. His quiet nature made him stand out, and many believed he simply wasn't interested in being in the public eye. Growing up with such high expectations from a famous family, Barron may have longed for a simpler, quieter life where he could focus on his own interests. Despite his silence, Barron's every move was scrutinized. His lack of public appearances created a sense of mystery around him, fueling more intrigue. People speculated about his personality based on the few glimpses they had of him, analyzing his body language, his interactions with his family, and even the few times he spoke in public. In an era where people crave attention and noise, Barron's quiet presence only added to the mystery. How does someone raised in the midst of constant attention and scrutiny decide to break free and redefine their role in the spotlight? What would make Barron Trump finally choose to speak up after all these years? Why Barron chose to speak now? Barron's decision to speak up came at a pivotal moment in his life. When he turned 18, the world saw him not just as the youngest member of the Trump family, but as an adult with responsibilities and new expectations. For years, Barron had remained quiet, shielded by the walls of his family's fame. But with adulthood came a new sense of responsibility. He could no longer remain silent. Turning 18 is a significant milestone for anyone. But for Barron, it carried additional weight. As the youngest Trump, every move he made had been closely watched, and his silence had been interpreted as a sign of youth or inexperience. But once he reached adulthood, that excuse no longer applied. Barron had to decide how he wanted to present himself to the world. Barron's family dynamic also likely played a role in his decision, unlike his siblings who had long been vocal. And involved in their father's business and political endeavors, Barron had remained largely out of the public eye. As he grew older, the contrast between him and his siblings became more pronounced, and perhaps the weight of that difference began to feel heavier. Barron may have felt it was time to make his voice heard, especially given the pressures of being the youngest and the most private member of the family. But Barron's decision to speak wasn't just about family dynamics, it was also about the world around him. Politics were moving quickly. and the Trump name was still a hot topic in the media, Barron might have felt compelled to speak up about a current event or personal issue that was important to him. In the year leading up to his statement, Barron had started making more public appearances. Though subtle, these appearances indicated a shift in his behavior. He seemed more confident and self-assured, and small moments, like exchanges caught on camera, suggested that he was ready to step out of the shadows. Barron's decision to speak out was seen as the end of years of silence. He had spent much of his life observing, listening, and processing the world around him. But now, as an adult, Barron realized that he had a voice and it was time to use it. The statement that shook the world. When Barron finally broke his silence, his statement was powerful despite being brief. His words caught the attention of everyone, from news outlets to social media users, and left people questioning what it all meant. Barron didn't rely on cryptic language or short phrases. His statement was clear, direct, and left little room for interpretation. What was most striking wasn't just what Barron said, but the fact that he had spoken at all. After years of silence, his voice reverberated across the media, sparking debates and discussions. People were divided in their reactions. Some saw it as a sign of freedom, a young man stepping out from under his father's shadow. Others viewed it as a challenge to the Trump family's established values and relationships. Regardless of the interpretation, Barron's words were no longer whispers. They were front-page news. What made Barron's statement so compelling was the mystery behind it. Was this a personal stance or an act of rebellion against the family's legacy? Was Barron simply finding his voice, or was he trying to redefine his role in the Trump family? For days after his statement, the media buzzed with speculation. Experts debated whether this marked a turning point in the Trump family dynamics or if it was a sign of something deeper. News anchors, bloggers, and pundits analyzed every word, tone, and gesture. Barron had gone from being a quiet observer to the center of a global conversation. The future of Barron. Trump Barron. Trump's decision to speak out left people wondering what comes next for him. What happens when the quietest member of a powerful family finally speaks up? Could this be the beginning of a new chapter for Barron? One where he takes a more active role in public life? Or will his brief moment of speaking out remain an isolated incident, with Barron retreating once again into the background? What we do know is that Barron's voice, once a whisper, is now part of the conversation. The world is watching, waiting to see what comes next.